It's so good. It is so good to be together. Thank you, Dawn, for that reading. There are few readings that, as a minister, bring a lot of memories with them. One of them is Mary Oliver's The Journey. Some of you may know that. And the piece that Dawn just read about belonging is another one. Over the years, every time they are included in a service, the stories that end up coming forward are life-changing. The stories of someone saying, here's what I need to do to save my life. Or here is how I haven't felt that I belong. You know, we speak often of being a welcoming congregation, open and affirming to all people, regardless of their sexual orientation, their gender identity, their race, or their religious beliefs. We've gone so far as to integrate our commitment to creating a sense of belonging for all people into our values, our mission, and our ends. One of our 5 core values is authentic connection. And the 4th of our 7 ends reads, welcome people in all their diversity and create belonging for one another. So we spend all this time talking about how we can be more welcoming, what we need to be doing. I think there's a very important component of this that we don't talk about as much. And we is sort of ubiquitous. It's not just this congregation. It's perhaps all groups, certainly all UU congregations. And it came to me very clearly. And that is, how do we create belonging for ourselves? How many of us have experienced that feeling of being with a group of people and yet feeling apart? Feeling that we don't belong? And how can we create belonging truly for other people until and unless we create it for ourselves? The key, I believe, to bringing ourselves back into the circle is self-forgiveness. People have asked me, what does that value authentic connection mean? Is there such a thing as inauthentic connection? Well, yes, I answer, there is such a thing as inauthentic connection. Sometimes inauthentic connection happens when we don't speak the truth. When we say what we think other people want us to say or what we believe is socially acceptable. Inauthentic connection also happens when we don't speak about or talk about the elephant in the room. Usually because we don't know if it's acceptable to talk about those things. Perhaps we haven't yet learned the norms or rules of a particular group, family, organization, or congregation. Inauthentic connection also happens when we hide part or parts of ourselves, which is what I want to talk about this morning. How we all hide parts of ourselves. The parts that we deem unacceptable, flawed, unforgivable. Now, of course, there are times and situations when it's appropriate and self-respecting for us to choose not to disclose certain things about ourselves. Those boundaries are very important. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm referring to the things we think we can't share because we're afraid of how others will respond. So we try to protect ourselves by withholding those parts of who we are, thinking that we're ensuring our belonging by doing that. In truth, when we hide parts of ourselves out of shame or fear, we end up feeling excluded. We know we aren't sharing our whole selves, and we live with that dishonesty and that fear and that hiding. What if others find out the truth? What if they know what I've done? Or who my parents or some other hurting person told me I was? We hide to try to belong. And by so doing, we actually keep ourselves from belonging. David White writes, "To feel as if you belong is one of the great triumphs of human existence. And especially to sustain a life of belonging and invite other people to do that, we are the one part of creation that knows what it's like to live in exile." So until we learn how to bring our whole selves into relationships and into community, we won't be able to create fully and authentically a sense of belonging for other people. To allow ourselves to truly belong and others in their entirety and authentic selves, we must first allow ourselves to truly belong in our authentic selves. I speak out of quite a bit of experience with this. And I've come to understand in my own life that there are two reasons why we keep parts of ourselves hidden: fear and pride. To know we belong is a human need. It is as real and important as food and air. We all need to belong. It's scary to imagine being shunned, and it's devastating when it happens. Thus we hide, trying to protect ourselves. You see, we've been taught, or I know I was, that perfection is the human ideal that we should all be striving for. And that makes us think that being accepted or worthy or lovable looks like being flawless, all-knowing, and most of all, never having made a mistake. It's no wonder that we hide our flaws, our confusion, and our mistakes. We hide these things from others, and we hide them from ourselves. And we do it in a lot of ways, many different ways. We numb ourselves to avoid feeling the shame or regret. We deny things about ourselves, even to ourselves. We project what we cannot accept about ourselves onto other people. And perhaps most harmful, we lash out at other people when they get too close, especially to those things that we don't want to acknowledge. In short, we do whatever we need to do to protect ourselves and not have those hidden parts discovered. So therefore, again, I come back to self-forgiveness and how critical it is. If we're hiding the parts of ourselves that we think are unforgivable, that we think are worthy of shame, or that somehow make us less than, we need to begin by forgiving ourselves. When we don't forgive ourselves, we live defended. And when we live defended, we will not always be kind. We can't be, because we have to protect those things we're defending. We have to forgive to experience belonging for ourselves. And then we can extend that to others genuinely. Again, I know what I'm sharing. There are many, many things I could share with you now, starting from very young, and most of us, it does start young. I was the child living in an alcoholic home who didn't tell anyone why I didn't join the sports team or the clubs and stay after school. We lived in a rural area and busing wasn't plentiful, and so it meant that parents needed to come and pick you up if you stayed after school. I didn't say to anyone, there was no one sober at home to come and pick me up. I just allowed myself to feel like I didn't belong. I didn't know then how many other children were doing the same thing. I didn't know I was not so different. We might have helped each other, or at least known we weren't alone. And as I said, there are many other stories I could tell, but I don't need to. You have your own stories. We all do. It's a sad truth about our society and culture that we are shamed, taught to appear flawless, and taught to hide. What if it were different here in our congregation? What if people could share their whole selves when and if they were ready and wanted to? What if there was no shame in our mistakes, or tarnished pasts, or pain? What if we allowed our whole selves to belong, and by so doing, allowed others to belong as well? How do we do this? How do we draw the circle wide to include more of ourselves and others? I'm sure there are many paths to doing this, and here's just one that has worked for me. We start bringing more of ourselves into authentic connection with willingness. We start by being willing. We admit to ourselves that we, too, keep parts of ourselves hidden. We, too, have done things that we deem unforgivable, just like everyone else. We, too, need forgiveness. And then, before going any further, we get to know ourselves better. Why have we hidden those things? What messages did we accept as true that perhaps are a lie? I thought that being broken meant being less than. I now understand that it means to be human. And then as we're ready, we can be curious about those parts of ourselves. What did those things that we thought were so bad teach us? I am who I am because of what's happened in my life. The good and the challenging things. I wrote down maybe more so because of the hard things. The truth is, definitely more so because of the hard things. So then, when we're ready to begin to open up, we begin to share some of those things with people we trust. And then we learn in that sharing that others have experienced or done similar things. And we respect them more, no less, because of their missteps or challenges. And then we offer ourselves the same acceptance and respect. We forgive ourselves for being real. It's not easy, what I'm talking about, but it is essential. And we need to have companions with us on this journey, friends, acquaintances, sometimes professionals. And as we allow others to be with us on our journey, we join them on their journey. And we all become more real, more whole, and more welcoming. I'm not asking us to be martyrs or to push ourselves or to engage in thoughtless sharing. I'm asking us to consider that we are more alike than different in our brokenness as well as in our divinity. Hate has no port here for others or ourselves. It takes courageous action to live into that commitment. But the gifts of nothing to hide and knowing we belong, those gifts are priceless. So much better than the fake, glittering gold of facade. Amen, and blessed be.